On Monday, April 21, 2025, just a day after celebrating Easter Mass at St. Peter's Square in Rome. The Vatican confirmed his death after a prolonged illness. Although recently discharged from hospital and having resumed his papal duties, his passing came unexpectedly, leaving millions of Catholics and world leaders in mourning. Now, for more on this, we turn our attention to Bishop John Kobna-Lewis, the Auxiliary Bishop of the Archdiocese of Accra on a satellite. Grateful to you, Bishop, for joining us via Zoom here on the ChannelOne newsroom. First of all, how did the news of the Pope's passing hit you? How did you receive this news?
Yeah, good evening to you and to viewers and listeners. Yeah, it came in a sad way because yesterday I did watch the TV showing his presence at the Vatican, St. Peter's Square particularly, where he gave his Easter message and Easter blessing. So it was quite surprising to hear that he had passed just this morning.
Well, I mean, walk us through what happens at the Vatican when something like this happens. We're told that there will be 9 days of mourning for the Pope.
Yes, there will be 9 days of mourning, but the funeral itself, to be announced tomorrow, will indicate specifically when the funeral would take place. And then subsequently, after the funeral, the cardinals will gather in prayer in what we call the conclave for the process of choosing his successor.
What are the protocols the Vatican will be following ahead of the funeral of the late Pope?
The detailed protocols will be announced tomorrow. But at the beginning, like today, they had to show the death certificate, and that has been declared already, indicating that he died out of stroke, which led to coma and then heart failure. And then thereafter, he will be placed in a coffin in a ceremony. He has already said that he wants things done in a very simple way for him, being a man of simplicity and humility. And then thereafter, with the announcement tomorrow, we'll know specifically when there'll be a burial service. Of course, he'll be laid in state for a few days, and then the burial service will take place. And then he has also indicated that he would like to be buried in one of the major basilicas in Rome, named after Mother Mary, you know. So the Basilica of Mary Maggiore, that is of Saint Mary Major Basilica. In the past 100 years, we've not had any Pope buried there because usually they are buried at St. Peter's Basilica itself. But a few popes in the past have been buried in other basilicas, in John Lateran, which is actually the cathedral of the Pope, who is as Bishop of Rome. So this is what we are looking forward to. There will be gathering of people, of course, mourners, many Catholics at St. Peter's Square.
We're also told that he himself selected a benefactor to pay for the cost of the funeral. Is this accurate?
And I've not heard of it. I'm not privy to this information yet, yeah.
Well, Ghana, of course, has a highly respected figure in the circles of the Catholic Church, Cardinal Peter Texin. Do you believe this moment offers a strong opportunity for him and for Africa to get one of our own to become Pope of the Catholic Church?
That would be great news to have an African, but as you know, this is not a political maybe election. It's all based on the fact that God makes a call. God makes a choice among the 135 cardinals who meet in Rome right after the funeral for what you call the meeting called the conclave. And then these cardinals, in a moment of prayer, and the whole church accompanying them in prayer, will make a choice. They first make a straw ballot for who they think should be the Pope. And as a few emerge, then they become, if you like, those who will be voted for. And the process had to continue until at least 2/3 of the cardinals, and the numbers I've mentioned, 135, 2/3 of them chooses one particular one who stands out. And of course, with prayers accompanying, we don't know who is God's choice for the Catholic Church. So we keep praying.
Well, you mentioned that this will be God's choice, but aside being a cardinal, are there any specific qualities that these cardinals will be looking for in the next Pope?
I get somebody who will continue the mandate that Jesus Christ entrusted to St. Peter the Apostle. The Pope, any Pope, is a successor of St. Peter the Apostle, whom according to Matthew 16, Jesus entrusted the mandate of taking care of what we call the visible church. That is, he is a vicar of Christ on earth. And he's supposed to bring unity among the church members. He's supposed to ensure that the message of Christ is spread and that the sound message is guarded against errors and so on and so forth. So I believe the Pope's meeting in conclave will be looking at somebody who brings unity, somebody whose teachings are such that it will continue the true faith of the church, and then somebody who will find ways whose leadership will enable many bishops, many priests, many Catholics to also be encouraged to be missionaries. I think this is what they'll be looking for.
Now, Pope Francis was regarded as the people's Pope. What do you think was his most profound legacy?
Yeah, exactly as he has been described, because this was somebody who, if you like, broke the usual bureaucracy, the usual protocols, and went down to the people, you know, and then people felt his warmth wherever he was. Even the father, despite the fact that he was frail on Sunday, you could see how people were happy to see him, you know, taking care to hold some kids here and there, and so on. So he likes to be with the people, and he encourages all the priests, all the bishops, all the cardinals in the church to keep it that way, that we are pastors, like shepherds, who should be close to the flock and trusted to us by Christ. So I guess the description of him as the people's Pope is very apt.
Finally, Bishop, how can Catholics in this country and across Africa prepare themselves for this transition? And what is your final message to Catholics around the world?
Yes, in Ghana, luckily, the president of the Ghana Catholic Bishops Conference just issued a statement this afternoon asking all of us to be in prayer. And then there will be a national day of prayer for him, but individually in the dioceses, in our parishes, in our various churches, in our schools, we should be praying for his soul, peaceful rest of his soul. And we are happy also, finally, we are happy that his departure happened, you know, as we are celebrating the resurrection of Jesus Christ. And the Pope being a man of hope, having declared this particular year as a year of hope, we believe his hope in the Lord will be rewarded. And so we should, despite the departure, despite the sadness in the parting, we should rejoice in the fact that he died as we celebrate, or we are celebrating the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Thank you.
I'm grateful to you, Bishop John Kobina Louis, the Auxiliary Bishop of the Archdiocese of Accra, talking to us about the passing of Pope Francis, as reported by the Vatican earlier today. Let's now take a look at how world leaders have been reacting to this unfortunate news in the following report.
The Holy Father, Pope Francis, is dead. This was communicated by the Vatican today, Monday, April 21st, 2005.
Con profondo dolore devo annunciare la morte del nostro Santo Padre Francesco. Alle ore 7:35 di questa mattina, il Vescovo di Roma Francesco è tornato alla casa del Padre.
Pope Francis will be remembered as a radical and transformative pontiff. Since his election in March 2013, he championed the cause of the poor and the marginalized. Dubbed the People's Pope, the Argentine pontiff worked to forge a more inclusive and compassionate church than many of his predecessors. A football-loving former Archbishop of Benares, appointed cardinal in 2001 by Pope John Paul II, Francis was renowned for advocating on behalf of society's most disadvantaged, prisoners, migrants, and communities affected by climate change.
Courageous and responsible effort to redirect our steps and to avert the most serious effects of the environmental deterioration caused by human activity. I'm convinced that we can make a difference. I'm sure.
Francis, born Mario Gregorio, made history as the first pope from the Americas and the first non-European pontiff in over 1,200 years. Born in Benares in 1936 to Italian migrant parents, he initially trained as a chemical technician before choosing the priesthood. Shortly before his 17th birthday, he was ordained in 1969. In 1998, he became Archbishop of Benares, and in 2001, he was elevated to cardinal. In March 2013, he was elected Pope, succeeding Benedict XVI, who had stepped down, the first papal resignation in nearly 600 years. Pope Francis faced staunch resistance from traditionalists within the Catholic Church. He vowed to reform the Vatican's central administration and crack down on financial mismanagement, overhauled Vatican communications, and took significant steps to address sexual abuse in the Church. He also ushered in progressive reforms, permitting divorced and remarried Catholics to receive Holy Communion, baptism of transgender individuals, and approving blessings of same-sex couples.
Condannare una persona così è peccato. Criminalizzare le persone di tendenza omosessuale è una ingiustizia.
These moves, while applauded by many, drew sharp criticism from conservative factions who accused him of straying from traditional Catholic doctrine. Tensions peaked during the Synod of Synodality in December 2023, part of a year-long global consultation on the Church's future. Francis leaves office with many of his reform efforts still in motion. Despite ongoing health struggles, he maintained a rigorous schedule both within Vatican and during numerous international visits. Through his unorthodox nature, he requested not to be buried at St. Peter's Basilica, but at the Basilica of Santa Maria in Rome, making him the first in over a century to be interred outside the Vatican. He also declined the traditional triple coffin burial, opting instead for a simple single coffin. His death triggers age-old Vatican protocols, including the gathering of the College of Cardinals for a conclave to elect the next pope. Every cardinal under the age of 80 is eligible to vote, and any one of them could be the next pontiff. His burial is expected within 4 to 6 days, followed by 9 days of mourning and prayer services across the world. As the Holy See and the entire Catholic family worldwide mourns the passing of the Holy Father, Pope Francis, the Ghana Catholic Bishops' Conference has issued a